After almost 80 years of no major conflicts, the world is once more on the brink of a major war. As tensions ramp up between the West and its antagonists in Russia and China, fears are growing that proxy wars could develop into wider armed conflict. Now, you might be thinking, if there's a World War III, which country has the best chance of winning? To be truthful, it depends on the military strength of the countries. The country that has the best, the country that has the strongest army, has the best interest in winning the war. So, is it Russia, the US, or North Korea? Watch the full video to find out. There are several crucial factors to consider when analysing the strength of a nation's military. The capability and availability of equipment such as vehicles, weapons, communications gear, and more are essential. The quality of training each soldier receives is vital. The commander's ability to consistently devise effective tactical strategies can be pivotal. But perhaps the most fundamental measure of a country's military strength is the number of soldiers it can deploy. When comparing the military capabilities of different countries, service people are usually divided into three categories: soldiers on active duty, reserves, or paramilitary members. Let's talk about the Russian armed forces. This video is sponsored by Change Your Flow. Amazing daily content and service for you and your business. A lot of new, really insane stuff is coming. Follow on Instagram. The Russian armed forces are unquestionably the second strongest military power in the world. Russia has the world's largest tank fleet, the second largest aircraft fleet behind the US, and the third largest submarine fleet behind the US and China. Russia is another country in the world that has a very strong military. The Russian armed forces are one of the world's largest military forces, with around 1 million active duty personnel, which is the world's fifth largest, and at least 2 million reserve personnel. It's compulsory for all male civilians between 18 and 27 to be sent for a year of service in the Russian armed forces. Russia has more than 30,000 armed vehicles and over 12,000 tanks, as well as a vast range of other equipment, including more than 4,000 aircraft and a naval fleet of 605 ships and submarines. As the world's second most powerful military, the Russian armed forces have the world's largest stockpile of nuclear weapons. It possesses the second largest fleet of ballistic missile submarines and is one of only 3 militaries operating strategic bombers. The Russian armed forces have the world's largest tank forces and the second most powerful air force and navy fleet. Russia has the world's fourth highest military expenditure, spending $61.7 billion in 2020, $70,000 million by the end of 2021. Putin's reforms made the Russian army professional and smaller. In their latest edition of the Military Balance, the International Institute of Strategic Studies breaks up the 900,000 wearing uniforms as follow: 280,000 in the Army, 150,000 in the Navy, 165,000 in the Air Force, 50,000 in the Strategic Rocket Force, 45,000 in the Airborne Forces, 1,000 in the Special Operations Force, 29,000 in the Railway Forces, 180,000 in Command and Support, and 554,000 paramilitary, with a reserve of 2 million in all armies. Putin has stuck to the Soviet custom of splitting up the armed forces to reduce the risk of a military coup. Also, there are some other reasons why the Russian army is the strongest of all, such as Russia is a large country. The bigger the country, the bigger the military power, just by the size of inertia. She still has a large population despite its very low density. History has made them very militaristic for a survival reason. Russia is first an army nation, then a country. Russia is an extremely advanced country in high-end technologies, and this doesn't mean consumer products like cars and mobile phones. It means real technology and industry where it matters, the real deal, which is heavy industry. Heavy industry is everything, and the Russians do everything. The base of any developed country is heavy industry. Everything else is just add-ons to it. They still rely on a half-conscription army, which cuts down salaries very much. though they're reducing the army size and increasing contracted volunteers more and more with each year. As long as their equipment can face the enemy at reasonable capacity, they keep their systems. At most, they upgrade them. Now let's take a look at the US military. The United States has never struggled for military funding, which takes up 15% of the US budget. That equates to $686 billion spent on weapons, tanks, boats, jets, and any other piece of equipment every single year. It hasn't stopped growing either. In 2020, $750 billion was allocated to the military, and it's likely we'll see another increase in the upcoming years. The US military possesses almost 2,100 fighters, 967 attack choppers, over 900 air transports, and special purpose aircraft. Some notable units are the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, the A-10 Thunderbolt II, and Apache attack helicopters. Drones shouldn't be ignored either, as they rise in popularity for taking out high-value targets. If we compare the Russian army to the US army, we can see Russia has 1,900 combat aircraft, whereas the US has almost 3,318. Russia has 1,655 attack helicopters and 22,710 main battle tanks, and the US has 6,417 attack helicopters and 8,725 battle tanks. Russia has 3 times more battle tanks than the US. The population of Russia is 55% more than the US, which is a great opportunity for having a large army as well. Also, Russia has 70 corvette warships, which are in almost 35 times that of the US. Russia has submarines 9 times more than the US. The US is much more advanced than Russia when it comes to nuclear submarines. They almost have 2 times more than Russia. On the other hand, Russia has developed technological advantages in missile technology. They wield stealth air-to-surface missiles that can reach velocities close to 3 miles per second. The US has nothing in its arsenal that can track and shoot them down. If we compare natural resources, Russia will be far ahead because it's the nation with the largest number of national resources, more than 30% of the world. The USSR may have contained almost half of the world's natural resources. Also, if we take a look at the military expenditure of these countries, we'll see that Russia can maintain the second most powerful military in the world at a fraction of the military expenditure of the US. In 2020, the United States spent around $766.58 billion on its military, whereas Russia spent over $61.7 billion on its military. Russia can do that because the US tends to completely renew equipment before its obsolescence or expiry date. They throw things that work and replace machines constantly. B-52 is the exception that confirms the rule. Russia doesn't start futuristic weapon system programs that delay for over a decade in revolutionary technologies. They do that only when forced by adversaries deploying military capabilities that completely threaten theirs. The US military is very large and funded, but most of their budget goes to the Navy as they need to go around the globe. Russia doesn't need a navy. Theirs is merely a defensive coastal force, not expeditionary. So, you have there a massive saving in the Russian military. They don't have 14 carrier combat groups. Russians build their vehicles, artillery and guns to perform in off-road bad weather conditions. They designed their equipment to be simple, reliable, and easy to fix. The US is paying unreliable private companies to administer a large part of its military space program. The temptations that lead to profiteering and unrealistic assessments of effectiveness might rot the foundations of military readiness. It's a risk that the Russians don't take. To sum up, we can say that Russia has all these costs very down. Russians can have a big military with less spending, but the US can't because of their economic system. The US is very expensive, be it by military standards, bureaucracy, companies gaining, and even corruption. That drives all the US military equipment and operational costs up more and more. Now we have another powerful country, North Korea. North Korea has one of the world's largest conventional military forces, which combined with its missile and nuclear tests and aggressive rhetoric has aroused concern worldwide. But world powers have been ineffective in slowing down its path to acquiring nuclear weapons. It has the world's fourth largest army with more than 1.2 million personnel and is believed to possess chemical weapons. A 2021 RAND Corporation report projected that North Korea could have around 200 nuclear weapons and hundreds of ballistic missiles stockpiled by 2027. If we compare the Russian army to the North Korean army, we can see that North Korea dominates in terms of military members per capita, with 306.1 total members and 50.4 active members per capita. Also, North Korea has 1,280,000 active duty military personnel, whereas Russia has 1,014,000. When it comes to the highest number of active duty and reserve military personnel, Russia is way ahead of North Korea, having 3,014,000 members, and North Korea has 1,888,000 members. Looking strictly at each nation's paramilitary capabilities, the ranking changes again. The nation with the largest paramilitary is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, which has over 5.889 million members. Conversely, the United States does not count paramilitary organizations as part of its available military, so its paramilitary officially has 0 members, and Russia has 554,000. So having said it all, we can see that the world's biggest country does have the potential to be the strongest army in World War III. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching.